Welcome back to Tiny Grimes' set review of Set 3. Bear in mind, these reviews are for constructed only, though there will be some information regarding draft. Let's start at the top. We have the Disian Sludge. This guy is very interesting. He fits really well into the life gain Arborist style deck. The problem is he doesn't really seem to fit what that deck needs. While it can make use of filling multiple lanes, for instance, if you get this on turn 1 or 2, it can be very useful to help you stay over 100. What this deck really needs are good life gain cards. So I feel like I'm not sure that this fits into that deck very well. When you play this card, it feels kind of like a win more card, or it does feel like you can preserve it when you're over 100. But if your opponent's able to take you under 100, this card does not solve that. It doesn't give you enough of a body, I don't think, to help you come back. If it said Allied Necreum gain 3 health or something, it would be an amazing card for that deck. I think as it stands, people will try it in the deck. I think they're going to be disappointed. I don't think this sees constructed play. Dozer the Dormant may be my favorite card in the Uterra cards that have been given to us. We basically get an Ebon Skull Knight, an 8/8, 12/12, 18/18 with Breakthrough. He is phenomenal. Apparently, the downside is you have to wake him up somehow. I don't think that's going to be that tough. I mean, you can set him in front of something. He battles, that guy comes online. Now you immediately have your Breakthrough because he has consistent. Because he has aggressive. So he's an 8/8 on level 1. He's really strong. I think 3 of him go in nearly every Uterra deck. And I especially see him as having a large function in some new Uterra Tempest deck. I mean, think of a deck like this where you have Dozer, you have Thundersoar, and then you play stuff like Flame, whatever it is, where it hits all guys on each side for damage. You can wake Dozer, you can grow your Thundersoar. I think this card is fantastic, and it will see play. All right, so Nuwada got a friend, Tuskens Spore Lord. I do not know what to make of Tuskens Spore Lord. Putting a copy of a level 1 plant in is not wonderful. My problem is it could be good in some sort of beatdown deck where you're playing like Tangle Sprouts and copying them. I don't think so, though, because you're playing a 2/10 then in that deck. With the 2/10 body, I mean, his body alone could be reasonable with like Weirwood Patriarch. Now he's a 4/12. You roar him, he's a 6/14. Maybe you play him in an AU deck with Battletech and some plants. I don't know what the deal is going to be. I don't think he's great. I have been told that he does not copy the stats on the target plant. If that's the case, he is, I think, nearly unplayable. If he does copy the stats, he would be reasonable. And this is time for a caveat. These are initial impressions of these cards. I actually haven't played with many of them. Fun Guy is makes it a little bit better. I generally don't like Soulbind because now you're putting more cards in your deck, but it is putting in actually a pretty good card into your deck. So maybe you can do something like Fun Guy, copy it. So bottom line is, I don't really know what to do about this guy. I haven't tried him yet. I'm unsure on him. I don't think he slots into a standard plants deck. Maybe I'm wrong. Metamorphosis is the most interesting card released with this set. That does not mean I think it's the best. But it's very interesting. I have no idea how to evaluate it right now. If it was not hard level gated, it would be phenomenal. Because you could use it as removal on your opponent's creatures. You still can. It's like a Botanimate that gives your opponent a Defender 0/3. However, if your opponent ranks up with their Defender 0/3, it becomes a 9/9, which is phenomenal. The problem is this 9/9 is always a 9/9 on every level. So even the level 3 only gives you a 9/9. If it didn't, it would be great for you to hit your own guy at the right moment. As it stands, I don't know what to do with this card. It's very versatile. It could be phenomenal. It could be trash. I don't actually know. It's a card that I'm definitely looking forward to trying out. I don't know what to do with it. It looks interesting, if nothing else. Etherphage is a meta-shifting card. Whether or not he ends up in all decks, I'm not entirely sure. But the fact that he exists changes the game substantially. If he becomes a meta card, spells become much, much dicier. I've already had one draft where I had a battle brand that was going to set me up with an amazing beginning to the game. My opponent played an Etherphage, pulled it out of my hand, and my game fell apart very rapidly. I think the same thing is true for Constructed, not quite to that extent, but it hits Varna's Pact. It takes advantage of Gox decks looking to get extra cards and trigger their gnomes. Basically, any spell you're relying on is vulnerable with an Etherphage hanging around. So look out, Etherphage will be a meta card, and I think he will be very good. Torgmai Guardian, shockingly, is the only card with the banish mechanic. Other cards have overload, and so they sort of have a self-banishing mechanic, but he is the only one in the set with an actual banish mechanic. It's a very interesting mechanic. I think he probably has a spot in a plant deck because he helps you figure out matchup issues. So in certain matchups where your plants are not going to be quite as good, like there's plenty of times where Leafkin is just too vulnerable, you can go ahead and pull him out, banish the card from your deck. You won't see it again. Now your Torgmai comes in as a 7/7. I think he's going to be good in that deck. I don't think he'll see universal play because he's so specific where you have to banish a plant. I think he'll see play. I don't know if he'll see play in a tier 1 deck. My guess is he very well may, though, if the plant deck stays near the top. Tango is flat amazing. There are going to be decks that run Tangle as a major source of removal. The fact that it is not hard level gated is extremely strong. It makes this card very powerful. There are many good mobility creatures. Just immediately in 5 seconds, Phoenix, Gargoyle, Wyvern, the new Battle Brand guy, the new AT guy, and Dragon. Any number of dragons. So we have many targets for this card. And I've got some secret ideas that I'm not willing to reveal just yet of how we can use it even more. Lycian Shard is an interesting card. I kind of don't think it sees play in Constructed unless it's in like some sort of Gox deck where you actually want a smaller deck. I could easily see it seeing play in that regard. Just as a 6/6 sort of underdrop buff in Constructed, probably not so much. Generally, investing multiple actions into one guy is dangerous. Depends on the meta if it shifts enough. Certainly, it'll see play in draft. I think it's quite strong there. Batterhide is very interesting. I'm hesitant to make too much comment on him for Constructed. I just don't really know. If you can get in a situation where you can buff him and have him hang around, he will be phenomenal. Will that situation exist in Constructed? I just don't think so. And you have to somehow get around the 3/6. I think he's probably not going to be all that viable in Constructed. I will say in draft he is a monster. He is an absolute monster with low amounts of removal and a lot of buff. Weirwood Ranger. I don't like this card. In my opinion, he is a substantially worse than Grove Huntress, and she does not see play in Constructed. I do not see this guy seeing play in Constructed. I just don't see it. Charbind Invoker is really good. The fact that he's essentially a 7/8 underdrop, he almost certainly sees play. The only reason he wouldn't is because the faction already has a bunch of decent underdrops that maybe are just better and have better text. Ridgeback has better text. There are a number of guys that can function in this role. I think, though, he will be a staple. Like, what's better, him or an Eidolon? That's a bit dicey because an Eidolon still functions as an underdrop, but it also can put a lot of pressure on in player level 1 if you want. So you're really going to have to decide, does he have a spot? He's definitely good enough to warrant a spot, but will the meta provide a spot for him is really what it's going to come down to. And in draft, he's crazy. All of these underlevel guys are really good in draft. Seal of Deepwood. This is a card that I think is most likely unplayable in Constructed, just simply because, like I've said over and over, investing multiple cards into a guy is very dangerous, and having to get around a really terrible level one to do it is even more difficult. But in draft, this card is pretty crazy. Look out for it. Scatter the Seeds. I don't know what to say about this card. It feels terrible to me, but so did Fido Bomb. There may be a deck out there where you're able to play Grimgaunt Devour and any number of cards that blow stuff up. I don't know. I don't think it's playable, but we'll see. Maybe it will be. I imagine a Seedling is a plant, yeah. But I don't see it. Ravenous Hydra is another one of these cards that doesn't have a good enough body, I don't think, for constructed play. It's not quite strong enough for a beatdown style deck. It's not good enough for a deck where it's like, this is the card you're leveling because its text is so good and it's not a good underdrop. I don't think he sees play. Overgrown Spine Leaf is a draft card. It's a rule of 6 draft card that won't see play probably ever in Constructed. Because if you think about it, would you rather play him or would you rather play a Lurker or any of the zillions of other underdrops you could play instead of him? He will not see play. All right. Well, thanks for stopping by for my set 3 review of Uterra. And check on YouTube for the other ones. They are all available.